There is a phrase in the Vetheri military lexicon, Kansuvith, which translates, imperfectly, to something like, the silence after the last gun. It is what commanders listen for. When a sector goes dark, when the distress codes stop, when even the automated beacons lose the will to repeat themselves, Kansuvith is what fills the channel. It means the battle is over. It means you start counting bodies and updating maps. 7th Fleet had been transmitting for 11 standard days before the silence came. Their final message was not heroic. It was not coded. It was just a voice, Commander Prethvasal, I believe, though the audio was badly corrupted by then, saying, very plainly, "We're finished." 2 words. Then, nothing. High Command updated the maps. Fleet Intelligence filed the loss. The sector was reclassified as contested yielded, which is the bureaucratic way of saying, ours until it wasn't, and, now we're moving on. We were moving on. And, then, 17 hours after the silence, something came back through the channel. Not Vetheri. Not the enemy. Something else entirely. Something that, in the 11 months since, I have tried to describe accurately in no fewer than 43 separate incident reports. Something that High Command keeps reclassifying, redacting, and filing under a designation that means, roughly, anomalous variable origin unresolved. I was the signals officer on duty the night the channel reopened. I haven't slept a full cycle since. What follows is my account. Unredacted. Unauthorized. They can court-martial me when it's over. If it's ever over. I timestamp everything. It's a compulsion. My bunkmates find it insufferable. My supervisor, a heavy-set Vetheri named Dorvath who smells perpetually of rehydrated protein paste and, disappointment, has told me 3 times to stop annotating my personal logs with fleet standard clock notation. It's unnecessary, he says. It's obsessive, he says. He's not wrong. I do it anyway. I've done it since the academy, since I was a second-year cadet who decided, with the bone-deep certainty of the very young, that the exact moment things happen matters. That time is not a backdrop. That time is the thing itself, and everything else is just content stuffed inside it. Dorvath called it a personality defect. I called it professional diligence. Neither of us called it what it actually was, which is this: if you write down exactly when something happens, you can prove, later, that you were there. That you witnessed it. That the record exists somewhere outside your own frightened skull. For 12, I took over the night watch from Ensign Tailper, who handed me a lukewarm container of bark brew and said nothing moving in the tone of someone who has said it so many times the phrase has stopped meaning anything. I drank the bark brew. It tasted like dissolved cardboard and ambition. I sat down at the relay console. 7th Fleet sector was dark by then. Had been for 6 hours. The battle, if you can call 11 days of sustained planetary siege a battle and, not simply a prolonged tragedy in 3 acts, had ended with Commander Prethvasal's transmission. I'd been off duty when it came through. I'd read the transcript in the morning briefing. We're finished. Even in text, there was something in it. Not defeat, exactly. More like the exhale of a person who has been holding their breath for so long they forgot what exhaling felt like. A kind of terrible relief. High Command had responded within the hour. Standard protocol. The sector was reclassified. 7th Fleet was listed as combat loss pending verification. Verification, in this context, means, eventually someone will go look at what's left. Nobody volunteers for that assignment. I finished Tailper's bark brew. Grimaced. Opened the relay log. For 23, routine channel sweep. Sectors 1 through 14, all nominal. Sector 15, 7th Fleet's last position, listed as inactive/contested yielded. I flagged it for documentation purposes. Dorvath would delete the flag in the morning. He always did. For 31, the second sweep. Still nothing from 15. I started my personal log. Not the official one. The one I keep in a second file under the designation SailKOV maintenance notes, because nobody reads maintenance notes. I wrote, 6 hours and 41 minutes of silence from Sector 15. Prethvasal's last words still sitting in the transcript queue. Nobody's deleted them yet. Somehow that seems wrong. Like leaving food on a dead person's plate. Then, I sat back and listened to the static. There's a sound that open channel static makes when there's truly nothing in a sector. It's not silence, silence would be preferable. It's a low, textured hiss, like something grinding against something else very slowly and very far away. Communications officers call it vesh. It doesn't translate well into most languages, but the closest approximation is something like the sound of nothing, which is still a sound. I was listening to vesh. And then I wasn't. 4:47, signal contact, Sector 15. I stared at the console for 2 full seconds before I moved. This is embarrassing to admit. The training is very clear on this: detected signal, non-standard channel, former combat sector, you respond immediately. You log. You trace. You escalate. I stared. Because in the 6 hours and 47 minutes since Prethvasal's last transmission, Sector 15 had held approximately 14 Zelthori heavy cruisers, 8 carrier platforms, and somewhere between 40 and 60 support vessels. All of them equipped with communications arrays that made our relay station look like a child's toy. The Zelthori do not go silent because they're beaten. The Zelthori go silent because they're finished cleaning up and have moved on to the next sector. If something was transmitting from 15, it was almost certainly Zelthori. It was almost certainly a trap, or a taunt, or both. But it wasn't using Zelthori frequencies. 4 hours 47 minutes and 12 seconds, I ran the frequency ID. The computer took 9 seconds, which is a long time for a frequency ID. It came back with a classification I had never personally seen used in an active log: origin, unregistered, possible Terran, Sol system, third planet, confidence, 62%. I wrote it down. Checked the timestamp. Wrote the timestamp down. Then, I typed into the secondary identification field, because 62% confidence is not the same as identification. What is a Terran? The computer gave me a fleet intelligence summary. 5 paragraphs. I read the first one. Terrans, colloquially referred to as humans in most translated materials, are a bipedal, oxygen-dependent species originating from the third planet of a minor star system on the outer rim. Militarily unclassified. No formal treaty with Vethori Command. No formal treaty with Zelthori Authority. Contacted by Vethori exploratory teams approximately 11 years prior. Current status, non-combatant, unaligned. I stopped at unaligned. Unaligned means, we don't know whose side they're on. Which typically means, they're not on anyone's side. Which typically means, they're not relevant. Except one of them was currently transmitting from a sector where our entire fleet had just died. For 49, I opened the channel. Static. Then, something that was not static. An irregular rhythm, not the clean pulse of automated beacon. Not the structured pattern of military encoding. Something more like a voice dictating to itself in a hurry, aware the words might not make it through, not entirely caring. The universal translation buffer took 40 seconds to calibrate. I had not, in my career, used the Terran language filter. It had been installed in the system 3 years ago as part of a broader outer rim communication package and, as far as I knew, had never been used by anyone on this station. It calibrated. The voice came through. Don't know if this is going anywhere, but Sergeant Yevamarsh, 14th Combined, grid reference 77 Echo, for whatever that's worth now. We've got 17 survivors. Zelthori pulled back about 2 hours ago. I think they think we're done. We're not done. We've got limited ammunition, 1 functioning medic, and approximately 40 metric tons of Zelthori heavy equipment that their operators are no longer using. Which, I'm just saying, represents a situation. If anyone is receiving this, we are not requesting extraction. We are requesting a forward map of Zelthori patrol rotation for this sector, because we have a plan and the plan requires timing. Acknowledge if able. Marsh out. Silence. Then, 5 seconds later, oh, and we need someone to tell us how to hotstart a Zelthori heavy loader, because apparently the startup sequence is in a language none of us read. Marsh out. Again. I sat with this for a moment. I wrote down the timestamp. I wrote, 4 hours 51 minutes and 33 seconds, Terran soldier. Sector 15. 17 survivors. Requesting patrol maps. Also apparently planning to steal Zelthori heavy equipment. Does not want extraction. Query, is this normal for Terrans? I sent a secondary query to the Fleet Intelligence database. It returned, behavioral data on Terran military personnel, insufficient sample size, see contact report archive. There were 4 contact reports. I read all 4. They were brief. 2 of them were filed by the same Vethari merchant captain who described an encounter with a Terran vessel in language that suggested either deep professional admiration or mild existential distress. The reports were inconsistent on this point. The 3rd was a xenological survey from a science team. The 4th was marked classified origin, military intelligence, not cleared for 3rd rank technician. So I had a soldier. 17 survivors. A wrecked sector. A request for patrol timing data that a 3rd rank signals technician absolutely did not have authorization to transmit. And a secondary request, somewhat more achievable, about how to start a heavy loader. I knew how to start a Zelthori heavy loader. We'd captured 3 in the Veth Corridor campaign 4 years ago. The manual was in the technical archive. I'd read it the same way I read everything, completely, obsessively, timestamping each section. For 54, I was still staring at the channel when it opened again. This is Marsh. I know someone received the last transmission because the channel quality shifted, which means a relay station opened on our end. I'm not going to pretend I know how your military hierarchy works, but I need you to understand something. We have 17 people, 3 days of rations, and 1 strategic window that closes in approximately 6 hours. The Zelthori do not know we're here. That is a resource. A resource has a shelf life. Whatever you're cleared to send, maps, supply drop, a picture of someone's lunch, send it. Marsh out. I pulled up the heavy loader manual. I looked at the classified contact report that I wasn't cleared to read. I looked at the timestamp, 4:55. Dorvath would be in at 8 o'clock. That was 3 hours and 5 minutes away. In 3 hours and 5 minutes, he would see the signal contact flag, review the logs, escalate through proper channels, and the matter would be handled by people with more authority and fewer compulsions than me. That was the correct procedure. I opened the channel. I said in Vethari, because my Terran pronunciation was untested and this was not a moment for experiments, receiving, Sergeant Marsh. 3rd rank technician Sailkov, Station Orvish 7. I am attaching the Zelthori Model 14 heavy loader startup sequence. I do not have clearance to transmit patrol data. I am flagging this channel for escalation to my supervisor at 8 o'clock. You have approximately 3 hours. A pause. 3 hours. Got it. Is the startup sequence annotated or just the raw code? Annotated. You're my favorite person in this war. I wrote that down too. Not because it was tactically significant. Because it seemed like the kind of thing that should have a timestamp. 4 hours 57 minutes and 44 seconds, transmission sent. Heavy loader startup sequence, Model 14, annotated. Terran receipt confirmed. The channel stayed open after that. Not continuously, Marsh would drop off for intervals, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, once for nearly an hour that I spent watching the clock with the specific variety of dread that I have come to associate with the space between when a thing is set in motion and when you find out how it lands. She always came back. Each time she did, there was a little more noise in the background. Not weapon fire, something more mechanical. Something with weight and movement. I could hear voices occasionally, other voices, terse and coordinated, doing something that required coordination. 612, Marsh, Sailkov. What's the load capacity on a Model 14? 90 metric tons. What about 2 Model 14s? That is a mathematics question, Sergeant. A short pause. Then, somewhere in the background, a sound that I can only describe as several people laughing at something that is also terrible. Fair. We're moving. I'll be back in touch. 6:13, channel closed. 7:58, channel reopened. 2 minutes before Dorvath. Marcia's voice was different. Not injured, I had learned, in the hours prior, to listen for the specific breathlessness of controlled pain, and this wasn't it. It was something else. Something I didn't have a word for yet. Sayalkov. We're done with the first phase. The Zelthori patrol at grid 77 Echo was going to be about 20 minutes late to their next position. The patrol at 99 Kappa is not going to make it at all. We've relocated to a defensible position about 3 clicks north, and this is going to sound strange, we've got more equipment now than we started with. I wrote, 7 hours 58 minutes and 2 seconds, 17 survivors. 3 hours. More equipment. I asked, are you still requesting extraction? Still no. Why? The pause was longer this time. Because we're not finished. 8 o'clock, Dorvath entered the station. He looked at my log. He looked at me. He looked at the open channel indicator on the relay console. He looked at the classified contact report I had pulled up on the secondary screen, the one I wasn't cleared to read, which I had, in fact, now read 3 times. He said, Sayalkov. I said, sir. He said, what have you done? It wasn't a question. It never is, with Dorvath. Everything he says sounds like a man reading a verdict he already knew. I showed him the log. All of it. Timestamped, annotated, organized by transmission sequence. I showed him the frequency identification. The Terran contact reports. The heavy loader manual I'd transmitted. The notation from 4 hours 57 minutes and 44 seconds. He read it. He reread it. He was quiet for a long time. Then, he said, pull Fleet Intelligence Command. Now, sir? Now. 8:04, I opened the command channel. 8:04, the open relay to Sector 15 was still running. I don't know if Fleet Intelligence heard it. I don't know if Marsh heard Fleet Intelligence. I don't know if any of it connected the way I needed it to, because what happened next happened fast, and fast things are harder to timestamp, and I have never been good at the fast ones. What I know is this: at 8:04, Sergeant Yevamarsh and 17 survivors had been in a dead sector for 17 hours. They had no air support, no supply line, and no acknowledged status in any Vethari military record. At 8:04, the Zelthori held 14 heavy cruisers in that sector. At 8:04, the Zelthori were also, apparently, 20 minutes behind schedule. I wrote all of this down. I looked at the timestamp. I waited to find out what happened next. Fleet Intelligence Command answered on the second pulse. Commander Vethosial, I recognized the voice from the quarterly briefings, one of those voices that sounds like it was designed specifically for delivering information that makes your stomach drop, said, Orvish 7, confirmed signal classification. Dorvath looked at me. I leaned toward the channel. Third-rank technician Sayalkov, sir. Signal origin classified Terran, Sol system, confidence now at 81% following extended contact. 17 survivors, Sector 15. Active. Have requested, forward patrol data and, ongoing technical support. A pause of approximately 4 seconds. This is relevant because Commander Vethosial is not someone who pauses. You've been running an open channel with a Terran operative in a combat sector. Yes, sir. Since when? 4:47, sir. Another pause. Shorter. The kind that means, I am recalibrating my understanding of what kind of morning this is. Put me on with them. I opened the relay to 15. Static. Then, the line noise that meant the channel was live on her end. Then, Marcia's voice, and there was something in it now, in the background textures of it, that hadn't been there at 4:47. A kind of compressed energy. The sound of someone doing 17 things simultaneously and narrating only one of them. Orvish 7? We've got movement in the southern grid. Not patrol pattern, this is something bigger. Possibly a logistics convoy. I need eyes. I said, Sergeant Marsh, I have Fleet Intelligence Command on channel. A beat. Fleet Intelligence. Okay. Hi. Commander Vathosial said, Sergeant. I need a full status report. 17 surviving personnel, 14th combined. We've been holding a concealed position in the northern processing facility since the Zelthori pulled back. We have 2 functioning heavy loaders, 1 artillery platform Zelthori model. We figured out the targeting system about an hour ago. Took us longer than I'd like to admit. 43 days of Zelthori field rations, which taste like someone salted gravel, and approximately 6 hours before the Zelthori notice their southern patrol is not where it should be. At which point they will begin a sweep. At which point we will be in a significantly less comfortable position. Dorvath, standing behind me, made a sound I had never heard him make before. It was something between a cough and a question. Vathosial said, You captured a Zelthori artillery platform. We relocated one, yes sir. Ma'am. Sorry, I don't know the rank structure here. Commander. Commander. Yes. We relocated it. How? Carefully. I wrote, 8 hours 9 minutes and 22 seconds, Terran operational vocabulary, relocated. Note, this appears to be doing significant work. Vathosial was quiet for a moment. I could hear, through her end of the channel, the sound of her station, the hum of larger systems, the distant cadence of a command deck working through something urgent. She was pulling up Sector 15's maps, probably. Looking at the position of the logistics convoy Marsh had spotted. Running the geometry. Then, she said, Sergeant. I'm going to need you to do something that is going to seem counterintuitive. Commander, with respect, I have been doing counterintuitive things for 17 hours. I am very comfortable with counterintuitive. I need you to let the convoy pass. Silence. The convoy. Let it pass. Do not engage. We are routing a reconnaissance asset to your sector. ETA 9 hours. If you can maintain concealment until that asset arrives, 9 hours. Yes. Commander. Marsh's voice did not change pitch. Did not get louder. It just got very, very level, in the way that a flat landscape looks still right before you realize the ground is moving. I have 17 people, a 6-hour window, a working artillery platform, and a convoy sitting in a grid with exactly one viable exit. I understand the value of reconnaissance. I do. But, what I am describing to you is a logistics resupply chain for 14 cruisers. What I am describing to you is one of those moments where the cost of doing nothing is paid later, by someone else, in a currency that doesn't exchange well. Vathosial said, You don't have authorization. No, Commander. I don't. Then, what I have, Marsh said, is the convoy in my sights, a targeting solution I've already run twice, and approximately 8 minutes before the window closes. I'm not asking for authorization. I'm informing you of the situation, which is what I was told a good soldier does. So, what would you like me to do? This was not, technically, a question. Dorvatha's hand landed on my shoulder. Not hard. Just landed, the way a heavy thing sets down when it has nowhere else to go. Vathosial said, Hold 1. The command channel muted. I wrote, 8 hours 11 minutes and 4 seconds, Terran operational logic, defines authorization as a parallel track to action rather than a prerequisite. Note, this is either brilliant or catastrophic. Possibly both. The channel unmuted in 40 seconds. Sergeant. The reconnaissance asset is being rerouted for immediate arrival. ETA is now 4 hours, not 9. Can you hold? 4 hours. Yes. Do not engage the convoy. Copy that. Sergeant. Commander. When the asset arrives, you will follow its lead and submit to Vetheri Command Authority for the remainder of this operation. Those are the terms. The pause this time was 5 full seconds. I counted them. Understood. Marsh out. The relay dropped. Vethosial stayed on the command channel. When she spoke again, she was not speaking to us. Get me Sector 15 full tactical within the hour. And, pull everything we have on Terran military history, actual combat records, not exploratory contact. A voice in the background said, that file is very thin, Commander. I'm aware. Pull it anyway. 813, command channel closed. Dorvath removed his hand from my shoulder. He walked to his station. He sat down. He looked at the wall for approximately 30 seconds. Then, he said, "You've been awake for how long?" 22 hours, sir. Go sleep. The channel, I'll watch the channel. Sir, Sailkov. He turned around. His expression was the specific expression of someone who has just had their understanding of a situation revised against their will and is, grudgingly, accepting the revision. Go. Sleep. I'll log everything. With timestamps? He stared at me. Sir, it's important that the timestamps are go. I did not sleep. I went to my bunk. I lay down. I stared at the ceiling, which had a small discoloration in the upper left corner that I had been meaning to report for 3 months and kept forgetting. The discoloration was shaped, vaguely, like a clenched fist. I thought about 17 people in a wreck sector choosing not to call it finished. I thought about Konsuveth, the silence after the last gun, and how Marsh had apparently received it, evaluated it, and decided it was a tactical condition to be exploited rather than a conclusion to be accepted. I thought about the convoy sitting in a grid with one exit. 11:47, I was back at the console. Dorvath did not comment. The reconnaissance asset, a light carrier, the Veth Soral, which I recognized from the Corridor campaign, fast and minimally armed, the kind of ship that exists specifically for situations no one planned for, had entered Sector 15 40 minutes prior. The tactical picture was coming through now, live feed from the Soral sensor array, patched to our relay station because we were the active channel for Sector 15 and bureaucracy had not yet rerouted us out of the loop. I pulled it up. The processing facility was there. Northern quadrant, exactly where Marsh had said. The concealment was, I spent a long time looking at this, good. Very good. The kind of good that isn't accidental. They had used the facility's own structural signature to mask the heat bloom from the artillery platform. They had positioned the loaders as material debris. From above, from sensor distance, it looked like a dead facility. It looked like everything else in Sector 15. It looked like Konsuveth. The Zelthori convoy was on the southern route. Still there. Still moving. Still unaware. 1202, the Soral's commander, a Vethari named Prethalin who had a reputation for operational efficiency and a documented distaste for irregular assets, opened a channel to the facility. I listened. Sergeant Marsh. This is Commander Prethalin, Veth Soral. We're in position. I'm looking at your tactical picture. Commander Prethalin. What do you think? I think you're either very talented or very lucky, and I have insufficient data to determine which. It's mostly luck, Marsh said. And Corporal Davi, who figured out the artillery targeting system. She's the one you want to talk to if you're planning anything. I'm planning to extract your personnel. A pause. With respect, Commander, there's a convoy on the southern route. I know. With one exit. Sergeant. Yes, sir. Fleet Intelligence has authorized a strike package contingent on your concealment holding until our gunship wing arrives. ETA 2 hours. You will hold position, you will not engage independently, and, when the wing comes in, you will withdraw to the Soral immediately. Those are the orders. The pause this time was 3 seconds. Copy. 2 hours. Can you hold 2 hours? We've held 17. 2 more is nothing. 1203, I wrote that down. 1358, the gunship wing entered Sector 15. I watched it on the sensor feed, the way you watch a piece of machinery begin to move that is much larger than you understood it to be from the schematics. 8 ships. Not large, as gunships go, but coordinated in a way that made them feel like one thing with 8 bodies. The convoy was still on the southern route. The convoy had, at this point, no idea. 1401, the first strike. I am not going to describe the feed in detail. This is not because the detail is unavailable. I have the full sensor record, timestamped at 4-second intervals, the entire engagement from ingress to withdrawal. I am not describing it because I am a signals officer, not a tactician, and the tactical analysis will be filed by people who know what they're looking at. What I am qualified to describe is what I observed, which is this: the Zelthori convoy had 14 support vehicles, 2 heavy escorts, and a command unit. The Zelthori convoy had, until approximately 1401, no reason to believe it was in any danger. At 1401, the Zelthori convoy discovered that the northern processing facility, which their sensors had registered as inactive/cleared since the previous evening, was, in fact, neither of those things. The artillery platform that Marsh's people had relocated was positioned with a clear line of sight to the convoy's only exit point. It fired twice. I am not a tactician. But I know what a blocked exit looks like on a sensor map. And I know what happens to a convoy that cannot exit. The gunship wing did the rest. 1422, the Vethsaral confirmed, personnel from the northern facility were aboard. All 17. Plus one more. Corporal Davi, the one who had cracked the targeting system, had apparently also acquired, in the intervening hours, a significant collection of Zelthori tactical data from the convoy's command unit, which she had, at some point, boarded. Prethalen's voice on the command channel had the specific quality of someone who has decided not to ask follow-up questions. All personnel secure. Returning to fleet. Vethosial, Sergeant Marsh, status. All present, Commander. Minor injuries, nothing critical. Davi's got a cracked rib. She is annoyed about it. The tactical data Corporal Davi acquired, I'd call it a gift, Marsh said. She's very generous. 1433, I added a note to the signal log: 17 survivors, now 18, all present. Convoy, neutralized. Zelthori patrol disruption, confirmed. Tactical data, acquired. Window, did not close. Then, I wrote, query, pending further research, is this normal for Terrans? I had asked this question at 4:51, approximately 10 hours prior. I still didn't have the answer. The fleet intelligence file was thin, as the background voice had said. The contact reports told me very little. The 4 documents gave me a merchant captain's admiration and a xenologist's clinical observations and 1 classified report I'd now read 4 times, which described a single engagement in a minor system 3 years prior, involving 2 Terran vessels and a Zelthori patrol, and concluded with a notation that I kept returning to: outcome anomalous. Terran vessels sustained significant damage. Zelthori patrol did not survive the engagement. Cause of outcome, under analysis. Note, Terran vessels remained on scene following engagement. Purpose of delay, unclear. No request for assistance was made. They did not call it finished, I thought. Whatever happened, they did not call it finished.